Greetings, Shalom. I had some thoughts come to mind on the a certain kind of sin that is pretty huge, and all of His word is meaning something, and it's all important and big. What it sounds like is not what it is, and that's what I'm seeing that mostly will be the answer for most things, constantly, all the time, that it's never what it sounds like the first thing someone believes and thinks in His word. Was never the right thing, that's for sure. It was never the understanding in actual sight, because man doesn't have that. Nobody has that. Adam doesn't have that. Eve doesn't have that. Not even one person has that of themselves. The abomination is the carnal man. It is each and every person their own worst enemy. An enemy to their own soul, to their own destruction. The Father's judgments and strong power and judgments are so perfect and never fail. Somehow He's always doing it, no matter what someone does, it never fails. Perfect judgment is being worked right in front of everyone, even though they don't believe or see at all how it's working or any proof for it, don't want to see it. He's doing it, still doing it, while nobody's seeing and believing. That's what we have to become, something like that a part of who the Father is in all things. It's who He already is, and it's what He's receiving already from the whole world. Now a believer must be receiving those same things and understandings to the degree and level that He gives, and not the same degree or something mad like that, as if a man is as powerful as the Father. Nobody's got power, period, let alone as much as Him. Not even close. Nevertheless, it is what we need to be becoming, something about Him for who He is, which is to be made in His image. Messiah was the first to be made in His image. The moment someone says in the church world that man is in His image, and that's what they mean by that, that's why they're saying it. That is why their heart is saying, God made us in His image. They're saying it as if it's already so, and true, and perfect already, and complete. It is utter blasphemy and sin. As long as someone's believing that in their heart, they don't know any truth. They don't know who the Father is, even though it's not on someone to know that specific truth overnight, and yet it is for believers to know it, to grow in it, to receive more of it. But nevertheless, anyone that continues to believe that lie, they must not know the Father at all, as long as they're believing that lie, that they're already in His image. They're calling all good evil and all evil good. They're calling all corruption and sin righteous, and all righteousness corruption and wickedness and sin. That's what that's doing already. It's what it's doing the moment someone believes that lie. Incredibly important what we believe. It's huge. Whatever someone believes, that's what they are and are becoming more of. It's already working and true. Someone believes they're perfect already and that they're not sinners for believing that in their heart. They do believe that, because it's a lie. It's not possible that someone is just already made in the Father's image perfectly and is already complete and was complete long ago. Even the moment someone's born, it's complete, they say. That's what they're saying. They would have to backpedal, backtrack, lie, deceive, try to come out of that if they were confronted by light and truth that questions why they're saying that and what does it mean when they say that. Tell us what it means. They would stumble, because it's a lie. They would try to cover it up. They would try to attack you, accuse you of something, just to make something up, to try to get it all on someone else and off of them. Try to get the sight and whatever is being seen off of them, because that's what someone does all their life, is cover up their sins. They never want it to be exposed. The only way to truth is to acknowledge it and for it to be exposed. The only way to be healed and actually receive the Father's truth is to be exposed and see it and believe it and acknowledge it from the heart. So as long as someone's covering, they're running. As long as they're running, they're covering themselves. Cover, working in so many different ways and angles. This covering, this fig leaf covering. The Pharisees, as an example, the religion, the church world, the super righteous, those that believe. The Pharisees, even though they had zero belief in the Father, none, they just thought they did like any other person. They had to believe they did, but they didn't. Messiah told them to their face, you don't know the Father. You don't know him, but your father is the devil, and his works you will do and want to do. His desire you want to do. He told them. The devil's works is what someone wants to do. Messiah is not a liar. Man wants to do the devil's works. He proves it every day by doing it every day. Works are left behind and they're seen, and those works are judged. And man is judged according to what he does, his works. He reaps what he sows. He doesn't get judged according to what his image is and what he says and claims and lies. No, but by the actual works of the heart, secretly or openly, all of it being judged by that. The thoughts and intentions of the heart and what someone really believes is being judged according to that, and not some lie that doesn't work with the Creator who sees through everything and nothing is hidden from his sight. It doesn't matter how thick the concrete is, he sees right through it, let alone a weak little fig leaf covering to cover up nakedness and sin, which is what this is meaning, the covering up of sin. Covering up of nakedness is covering up sin, so that self deceives self and doesn't even believe that it's a sinner, because it believes in its cover, it trusts in its cover, it's self-righteous in its cover. It puts all trust and faith, carnal man's faith and definition of faith, in its own cover and self's abilities to cover and do the working of their own hands by their own works. It has all self-confidence and pride. What does the Apostle Paul say? I have no confidence in the flesh, none. That's the truth. That's what a believer is becoming and needing to become more and more of. No confidence in self, none. That's the perfect thing. And going in that direction always until it's perfect, until those words are actually, I have no confidence in the flesh, until those words, the truth, become the reality of our heart perfectly. But now bit by bit they become so in his way, not fully complete, but 1%, 2%, 5%, 10%. Someone says, I don't have confidence in self, in the flesh. 5%, they say, according to what they have at the moment, a believer, and what they are given, working whatever they're given. The Father doesn't judge someone for what they don't know or have, as if to punish someone according to expecting them to do something they can't know or have yet, because they need to further grow. He doesn't do that. Nevertheless, have to learn and grow still and do his will. Have to repent and acknowledge any sin anyways, constantly, for real, all the time, continually. Just because that one thing is so, it's not meaning that it's used as a license to sin, his grace, but that would be mankind. When he sees the truth and sees good, he sees only perversion and wickedness. He sees the same old thing, covering up and justifying sin, using his word, his grace to justify it, teaching for doctrine the commandments of men on what grace is, not having the grace on them that do this continually, but speaking about it as if they do have and know what this grace is, and teaching people the doctrines and commandments. They are commands. They are commands. Commandment is a command. The Father commands, but he's a righteous commander and doesn't do the carnal man's commanding. The doctrines and commandments of men, people command and demand others to obey them and do what they say and tell others to do all the time. They command it from their heart. This doesn't look like anything on the outside. This is a working within, spiritual and invisible. That's what's being spoken of, the spiritual things, whatever is from above that needs to be given, that's invisible to the world that's blind and doesn't believe and cannot see any of it at all. Cannot see the Father's spiritual language, spiritual Hebrew that's being spoken. He cannot see what speaking tongues is. It's speaking out of his spirit, his language, which looks drunk, stupid, wicked, and all evil filth to those that are drunk, stupid, wicked, and all evil filth. That's what it looks like, because it is all those things. It just condemns and accuses when it speaks of the Father's works as being those things. The only way someone knows whether that's that is by being commended by the Father themselves, personally and directly. No one else will believe it in the world. A believer has to know what they did, what they do, whether it's this or that, whether it was a sin or not a sin. A believer has to know. That's the importance, and the want to know is a gift itself and proof of the Father's Spirit in a believer, because no carnal man could actually care or want to know his things, or to know whether they sinned or not, or they need to know whether this is the truth or not, because if we don't know, we'll sin, and his people become aware of that. They care about that. It becomes incredibly important. That is the Spirit working in his people. There was no such thing before belief for any true believer of all these things. Caring about that is the proof the Father is in them, working in them, in his people, because there is no possibility for any care on these things apart from him in unbelief. It's the proof that he's working in someone, that he's right there with them. It's the proof that he's with us and all his people, whoever they be in the whole world, the few. Everything that's true and good looks and sounds and is perverted and evil to the enemy. That's the way it is. That's the doctrine. That's the true teaching. That's how it's working. And it can't be any other way, because whatever is at enmity fully and backwards, the truth and everything that's good is backwards to them, because they're backwards themselves. And that goes back to that same thing. The truth speaks out and says something because it's out of what it sees and knows and hears and believes and cares about and needs to speak truth. The enemy can say the same words, condemn someone, say this about that or this or that about someone. Only because they're backwards themselves, they call good evil and call good works evil. If they saw and knew what they were doing and could see their works, they would never do such abomination and astonishing blindness and hypocrisy. It's because it is what it accuses itself still fully and cannot acknowledge that. And that's how it's working, comparing unbelief with what there's no possible way for unbelievers to actually do anything that's righteous. There is no way available, and he made it that way. Only through him, only through belief and true repentance and asking and belief in him, the true faith in him, can all these things be given. There is no other way. It won't be given. He makes sure of it, because he's the head and creator of all creation, the Father, and gave all things in power to Messiah, who's now the head of the body and is not above the Father, but is given all things and is right below, because he's been made that. He was given the kingdom and all things and authority, and he spoke and speaks in authority of the Father's authority. It was all given to Messiah. Messiah never received it any other way through pride. There is no receiving the true things through pride. Pride is just a cover, an image of the true, masquerading and hiding that it has nothing that it's selling. Whatever it's selling for an image that it is and has, and what it's about, what its words are, who and what they are, what people think of them. Through pride, all of that's a lie and isn't real. None of it's real, because the Father does not give anyone anything through sin and unbelief. Now he gives good carnal gifts to men, because the carnal man can only see carnal things, and he does do plenty of that, of which is a separate thing, and he does do that. And who knows just how much. It's a big world, and the Father's even bigger. Just how often these things are happening. How often does the enemy see a little miracle every now and then, but they never believed it. They rejected it and then continue to say afterwards, I'll believe when I see. They won't be able to see the difference between some natural thing that happened and a miracle anyways. That's the frightening part, is an unbeliever will never be able to see that in this life as long as they don't believe. Though they will call, if they see good around them or come near them, they will call it evil, just like the evil. If they saw something special, they will call it the common thing, just like everything else common. It will call what's holy profane, and profane holy. And set apart is holy. It will call what's set apart as not set apart, and what's not set apart as set apart, calling good evil and evil good in all things. If it can be named, it's calling good evil and evil good about that thing that can be named. So when Messiah did the works and was right in front of them, he was a light in the world, shining a light, the Father's light, doing the Father's works. Our light is light. They are works of light. That is what light is. It's all one with him. He is the light. The Father's the light, but his works are him. His law, his commandments is him. When his works are done, there's a light that shines when someone does his works in the world. It's a shining, burning lamp and a light. And it's not meant to be hidden and not seen, but it's meant to be seen by people, by unbelievers, in hope that someone will believe. But nevertheless, it's still meant to be seen to all those that won't believe in this life. It's still meant to be seen so that they can hope, and so that someone can hope that they will believe through that and walk and believe in the light when seeing it. And Messiah said, so long as I'm with you, believe in the light while it's with you, because it's not going to be near you for very long. It's going to go away. That's a fact. And Messiah went away. And he used himself as an example of what's constantly, this is the truth still. This is for believers. This is for unbelievers, that it's not truly for them and that they won't understand. But anyone, it's working towards unbelievers. Nevertheless, despite their lack of any sight, it's still true and happening. And it can be proven and seen that it's true and happening. It's not empty, lying words, anything to do with the truth. It can be proven and tested if it's the truth. The partiality of man doesn't want to test and prove anything. If there's a way to test something and he's told, test this thing, check it out, test it, he won't do it in fear that it might be, well, it is right, but in his mind that it might just be true and right. He won't do something that proves he's a sinner. So he will take that as evil when he sees that light in this world, to do that for their own good, for that's why it's done. He will see it as evil, and that you're just trying to say he's wicked and a sinner because that's all he does to others. That's all he is to others. is trying to dig up sin in others, that doesn't care about their sin, doesn't care that someone stumbles to the slaughter like they can read, doesn't do anything to try to guide someone and keep them from the stumbling to the slaughter, that does something that warns them so that the blood doesn't come on a believer's own head also. It will come on the other, but someone will save their life by sounding the trumpet and alarm. And if a believer doesn't do that when they're supposed to, then the blood is on their own head. But the one that sinned, it will be on their own head according to their works also. But it will be that regardless of what we do. But the huge important thing is what we do. It will be blood on our own head if we don't do what's right. So it doesn't matter what happens to someone else. That's just believing, needing to have faith and believe that the Father will judge someone else. That's not what man is. It's not what the carnal mind is. It needs to see it, and it needs to repay and judge someone itself because it has no faith in this. It cannot walk away from someone, possibly forever, and never see them again, believing that the Father will judge them for that evil that they just recently did. It cannot do that. It needs to see some carnal, wicked punishment, and it needs to revenge one way or another and see its revenge on someone because it's proving it's utterly faithless, 100% faithless. Those works are proof of faithlessness. It's utter proof of great cowardly fear and faithlessness. So then believers needing to learn all his things, his word, that the world is not learning and not growing in at all. It won't have any care about it. It just will continue in sin and darkness and denial and rejection of truth and justifying of all sin and covering it up. That's who and what Adam and Eve are. There is no word that they are anything else. That's who they are. It's the Father's works that covers Adam and Eve as a teaching of forgiveness and the plan of all mankind in due time. His covering is the true covering and sacrifice. Our sacrifice is to do his will and lay down self's life, to die daily, to die to the old man more. Sacrificing self's things is required to do good to others and do his will, and that will grow, meaning it gets bigger. The sacrifice gets bigger to do bigger good works. It has to. And if it doesn't, someone won't be doing the good works because there's no way to do them apart from this truth. It requires sacrifice of self to do good, his good works. It requires denial of self to be slandered, trashed, abused, and raped by the world and letting it be and not doing any evil back to them is sacrifice of self, is letting self get slaughtered and die, and the Father uses this slaughtering for our own good to kill the old man more while he makes the inner new man grow bigger. He uses the devil that chews up the flesh and is always looking for someone to devour and condemn and attack and accuse, the accuser of the brethren daily, every day, every minute. It's who and what the enemy is. That's who and what people are that are of the enemy. The Father knows how to use that and turn it around to work out a good purpose that's for the good of his people, for their gain, for their growth, for their increased understanding and belief in him, in faith, in truth, and knowledge, everything that's from him and good. It takes faith to believe that he's going to do that through someone murdering and taking a stab at a believer in any kind of way, all kinds of ways. And allowing them to without doing any evil is sacrifice of self. It takes all power and strength to do. It takes nothing to turn around and punch someone back that punched us. Zero. That's utter faithlessness. It's proof of faithlessness. It already proved it past tense. A faithless act, faithless work right there, faithless heart. That's what that work is. It's faithlessness. Faith is proven and can be proven. Faith is the works of the Father. They are one. That's why we read, I will show you my faith by my works. Now you try to show me your faith without your works. It's not possible. That's why we read that. They're one. The Father doesn't talk. His word is doing it, doing what it says and means. Whatever the belief is the doing of that belief connected with the works of the knowledge. It's all one. It can't be divided. If there's no works, there is no knowledge or belief at all for someone of the Creator. They're just lying when they say that they believe, because the works are the very proof of the belief. Saying the words isn't it, because a lot of people will say these words that make it look like and sound like they believe that it's faith, and works, instead of faith alone, and the debate and argument, the division of the two extremes, two carnalities, two lies. Neither one is true and of truth. Making it sound like someone has the truth and believes is not the truth at all, and means nothing to the Creator, and will do no good for someone at all. Doing the image of the truth is not doing the truth. It's like a shadow throwing a ball at someone's face, and you look at the shadow throw a ball at someone's face. Man is the shadow. He's doing the image of the truth. The shadow points to the truth. The shadow isn't the truth itself. It's not real. That shadow that thinks it's doing that didn't actually do that. He only made himself look like what he thinks that is and means. He only does what he thinks love looks like in his corrupt carnal mind. He only does throwing a ball to someone. He only does what he thinks that looks like for an image, and a shadow is an image. Nothing actually was done. There is no power. It's as vain and void as the bottomless pit itself. It's as empty can be. When someone sees someone throw the ball at someone, in reality, meaning the person now is doing it, not speaking of the shadow. The shadow man fills up with great fear because it was actually done. What he never could do or see anyone else do, just other shadows doing the same image. He goes into great fear when he sees the actual works of the Creator doing what that word means that they don't understand, know, or do. Otherwise, they wouldn't just be a shadow if they knew what it meant. It doesn't know what it means, and it doesn't acknowledge it doesn't know. It's never done the Creator's good works, which means it's never done a righteous work a day in its life. 0 good works, none, because every good work comes from above and can't be done by man apart from belief, apart from the Creator. Even that's a gift, and it's all from Him. Every good gift comes from above. And whatever comes from above is a miracle. To be born again from above is from being born of His Spirit, His power, of His will, and not man's will, and not man's working, and not Abraham and Sarah's working. It takes a miracle for this new man to be born. The Father's miracle, that's why we're reading that. The image of Abraham and the story that happened is not the truth, which is all His word working like this. It's pointing to the truth, and that truth can only be given from above. What it really means to see in the heart, it cannot be understood or given by man from self. It cannot be listened to by someone in the world, and now someone understands because they listened to the words. It must be sought after and come from above. What it means that no one can be born of man's will, that the new man is not born of man's will, nor can be, but it's of His will. That's what this is teaching with Abraham. One son represents the spiritual, and one the carnal. One is representing the one born from the Creator above, and the other born of man and his doings. Neither one of them in reality back then were the truth, but one is the truth in that it's a teaching and a pointing to the truth. One is representing the spiritual, the new man, the one born from the Creator, born of the Father's seed, spiritual seed of Abraham, not carnal seed of Abraham, spiritual seed of Abraham, which has nothing to do with the literal flesh and man's workings, thinkings, thoughts, flesh, physical objects, nothing to do with that. And also what I've seen more on recently that hit me and causes some fear, because it's always working like that when he gives something. It's incredible what we can't see and what we're blind to until it's given. But he adds here and there a little bit, here a little there, adds the increase on every understanding, so more of it grows into what it needs to be, the perfect thing. Abraham is ready to kill his son, and then that's the son of promise. Did the father actually command him to murder someone and kill him? Well, it sure sounds like it, doesn't it? And the answer is no, he did not. If man doesn't have the true faith, he will only see the carnal command and do evil to others and murder them. He will need to murder others to save his own faithless self, of which there's no real saving, but this is the saving that destroys. He who saves himself shall be destroying his life, his soul. Abraham is an example of the faith and not the reality still himself, but what it's teaching, what that word is teaching, is the truth and reality which must be given, as all his word working like this. Every word, all of it. The image was never the truth itself. The shadow doesn't throw a ball at anyone. It just looks like it. There is no real ball. There is no real person. It's just an image, a beast that only needs to pop out so that it can be destroyed utterly, to prove and show so many things and to bring out the true and the real. The fake thing has to exist for a time. The beast is like something that is and is not, and yet it is, and it goes out into perdition. It's not real. It's a delusion. The Father gives breath to the delusion because man wants that to be so. He allows it to be so to deceive the man, and so that he thinks that the God and idol and image has power itself, apart from the Creator, in rebellion, when there is no other true power. Even all the working of the devil is under the Father's power. All of it is. There is nothing that is done out of his sight and will and plan and work. Even all the evil that's done is working under him and his control and sovereignty and power. The delusion is to believe that man is a god, or idols in anything idol, that there's a power in something else besides the Father. And the rebellion is to not believe in the Creator and believe the truth on this. It doesn't do anything physically for anyone. It doesn't make them get richer or look wise in this world, the truth. It does nothing concerning carnal things and carnal kingdoms, because it's not of this world. It has no profit or value at all of this world and the carnal mind. It will not give anyone anything that they want and love: money, fame, worship, praise. It will not do any of those things for them, the truth. But it has great value and profit in reality that the man does not see or know or care about and cannot believe. It has great value in the one that's believing and doing the Father's will. Life itself is given. More truth and sight is given. More faith is given. It has great actual value, but no value to those that don't believe. The things that man values is an abomination to the Creator. What man highly esteems in his heart is an abomination to Jehovah. All of it. Everything he thinks is important, amazing, wise, and good is an abomination to him, to the Father, to the Creator. What man esteems, as Messiah taught, what he most raises up as number one, let alone number 2 and 3 and down the line. Number 1 is an abomination, let alone number 2, 3, 4, 5 and down the line. The greatest thing that someone esteems in and of this world, of that carnal mind, carnal things, worthless things, is an abomination to Jehovah utterly. truth is no abomination. It's just an abomination to the enemy. At the right time, a sacrifice, what was it, a goat or lamb? I don't know, a ram, I think, was provided so that Abraham doesn't do what he thinks the Father said to do. That's not what it meant. He never commanded anyone to murder someone or kill anyone. But man has to believe that about God, about the Creator, because it does not know him. It does not understand anything. It only sees the image in the dead letter of the word that it already made up for what that means in its own heart. It applies its heart and doctrine onto the word. They are the teachings and commandments and doctrines of men. It is not the Creator's teaching when some false prophet is saying this is from God. It is from their own heart. It is their own doctrine and teachings from themselves and their own resources, from the devil, from themselves. It is not from the Creator anything false or a lie. What they get into people's heart and mind has nothing to do with the truth or the Creator at all. It is their own doctrine that they try to hide by saying it's God's doctrine on their golden calf. This is the delusion that all of creation's already in. This is the judgment for all that don't love the truth, that hate the truth. It's already working, and so it's already who and what everyone is. It's already happening every day in every unbeliever's life. It creates its own gods and then tries to stick the blame, a scapegoat, so that they can say one thing, but then if there's a problem, they can blame their God they created and not take any responsibility or accountability for their lying, leavened doctrine and hypocrisy. They say it has power and that it's of God, and 1 minute it's their own, and they want to take credit for their doctrine and their wisdom and knowledge. They want to take all credit. But then when something comes to expose that, anything that makes God man afraid, now all of a sudden he takes no credit for anything that's bad for his image, anything that's bad report towards him. Now all that blame goes to God, the golden calf he created. He only takes credit when when it's something he thinks it's good, praise from others. But when it's the opposite of praise, he needs a scapegoat to blame and dump and not say, I'm connected to this. God man is only connected when it's something to do for his carnal gain, what he thinks is good of this world. When it's praise and good in this way from people towards the God man, the carnal man, then he takes credit for what he just said and did. But when there's something wrong, doctor has to blame something else, doesn't he? He's going to take credit for some pill doing some kind of sorcery and healing someone. But when anything is said against that good image towards him, saying this is bad, and you're connected to this, right? You promote it. You created it, or maybe didn't create it, but it promotes it, connected with it, says it does these things. Someone saying it's doing the opposite, and that's a bad image on the doctor, very bad image. God man doesn't like a bad image on him. Now he's going to blame someone else besides himself, and not have any accountability or take any credit towards the negative thing ever, never. And that can be tested every day. It can be tested every day in all kinds of, no matter what someone's doing. It's not just about some doctor. That's just an example. He will not be able to take any accountability and credit for anything that's a bad report on his image, or maybe even someone died. That would be like the worst case scenario, pretty much. How could he be connected to someone's death? Definitely can't do that. Can't bear that at all. So God man is trapped by the true creator. Not such a God after all, is he? A carnal man. He's not so strong after all. Just a worm that can be taken at any time, at any moment, at any day, can fall down dead with a heart attack at any moment. Just a nothing. One breath and then it's gone. Dying no different than a beast of the field. 1 minute it's there and one next it's gone. All that pride, all that wickedness, just boom, gone. Not such a God after all. I didn't know gods die. I thought gods are immortal, like they always talk and make it sound like someone is immortal and will be immortalized somehow, even though they're dead, through some image, through some product that was left behind. They created breath in that image. It's as if it has power. It's as if it's alive and has power of itself apart from the creator in rebellion. It's as if that product is the person themselves still there somehow speaking to the people that worship the dead man. Of course it's going to worship the dead more than the living, because that's even greater abomination, which means it's greater good to man, because it's even more grave. The more foul it is, the more people will love it. The more people will worship that foul thing. It worships the dead because it's glad in the dead, because it loves death and is death itself. It doesn't know, doesn't understand and see that it's death, and only ever loved death and is connected with death, 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 with bad, bad, bad negativity and everything that's death. It will violently accuse someone else of being negative and liking negative stuff, because that's what it is, trying to hide that that's who and what it is. It's offended when it sees its fellow man and the image of what it is itself every day, no different than that man. So it condemns it, thinking it can escape the judgment by condemning someone for what it is itself every day in hypocrisy. It thinks it can hide by condemning someone else of what it does every day and is no different than any other flesh, no better, no worse, not seen any different by the Creator, and isn't any different or better. But it needs to believe in pride that it's better, and this is rebellion. This is the pride. This is the sin. This is all sin is connected to this pride and rebellion. It's the rejection constantly of the Creator and his authority and power and his word and his truth and everything that's good and righteous. It's the rejection of that. That's what rebellion is. It rejects the true authority. It rejects everything connected to that authority. If it rejects the authority, the Creator itself, himself, then the person will reject everything connected to the Father, all his truth, then every word, every work that's good work, it will hate, because it hates the authority. It cannot love anything, any detail of the authority. If it hates the authority, it hates every detail attached to the authority. If it hates love, it hates every command that's branched out from that. It hates viciously, do to others as you would want them to do to you. It's going to hate the one that gave that command and every law and everything connected to that law. All the law and the prophets hanging on two things. It's going to hate all of it, not just one, two, or three, or four things. All of it. If it even hates one thing out of all those things, it hates all of it. But it tries to believe the lukewarm middle thing, that it can do both things and straddle both sides, the contradiction, the lukewarm, the impossible thing, the contradiction, utterly contradicting. Thinks one minute it can say, I believe this, and the other minute, when it's something else, I don't believe the same exact thing now. All over the place in contradiction like this. It believes it can straddle both sides whenever it wants. That's the work of the devil. That's the lukewarm middle of condemnation. Proof of condemnation and unbelief is to only ever see those works in a tree, in a person. So then we know them by their works, not by what they say, not by their cover and their image and their act. To hide what someone is, that believers are knowing and learning more every day for what man really is, that there is no one different than self, that self was all these things too and still needs to overcome them, but man does not believe he's any of this. He's in the rebellion. He doesn't believe. He doesn't acknowledge he's a sinner. That's the difference. Doesn't actually believe or see the Creator. Whatever self is, that's what everyone else is also. There's nobody different. The lie of the world is to create and construct an image as if someone is different, as if that actually exists. The sins done in the heart are identical. There's no one different. Everyone is Adam and Eve. They don't believe what it means when we read that Adam sinned and then down the line everyone sinned. And everyone is in Adam because they did the same thing as Adam, not automatically condemned and judged for no reason because they're connected, but because everyone does the same thing as Adam. They are in Adam. Everyone sinned, and therefore everyone is the same as Adam and Eve. And whatever we read in Romans, that's how it's working. It's not working any other way. It's because everyone actually is and does the same thing as Adam that it goes down the line and continues the corruption. No one's different. All have sinned. All have fallen short. And that's not being said as if someone's doing some good. Fallen short here means that's all someone's ever done is fall short, which means they never do good. All have fallen short. All have sinned. All are in Adam and die like Adam dies, the condemnation and death that he's in. But in Messiah, all will be made alive. They don't believe that. They don't believe the first thing either. They just make it look like they believe that all are in Adam and sinners and died in sin. They don't believe sin exists in their heart. And the works prove it and can always prove it for someone that sees the works that prove it. The Father's works to see what real sin is. It was never about some image and what someone said that never proved anything at any time. All day long, the devil can say he believes that everyone's a sinner and not even one is good. He doesn't believe that at all for what that really means. He doesn't believe he himself is a sinner and wicked at all in his heart. Zero. Not at all. And saving of the soul every day is proof of that. It's utter proof of the true belief that actually exists, which is I am not a sinner, I am not wicked, I am righteous, self-righteous. That's what everyone believes of themselves, self-righteous. It's easy to say those words that everyone's a sinner because it only says out of blind condemnation, wanting everyone to be a sinner. It's condemning everyone with a disgusting face while it says it in its heart. That's why the church world says everyone's a sinner, because it likes saying that out of condemnation and death, out of blindness. It doesn't actually believe those words for what they really mean and doesn't believe them at all. For itself, first, it doesn't believe. And if it doesn't believe that's what it is itself, how can it believe that no one is good, not even one? If it only just doesn't believe that about itself, it now does not believe that scripture at all, because it means no one, including self. If it doesn't believe that about itself, it doesn't believe that scripture. Of course, it's for everyone else too. But if it were just somehow only self, if it's somehow believed everyone else is a sinner, but not itself, it doesn't believe that scripture because no one means zero, including self. So the world cannot believe, cannot see what that means, and it doesn't want to see what it means. It doesn't actually believe that no one does zero good in reality every day without the Creator. No one does any good. That's what that actually means. That literally no good is being done. The Father in heaven is seeing it as no good being done. Only evil works from the heart is being done. That's what no one is good, not even one, actually means in heaven, in truth, from where it came. When it comes from earth, those words, it means some kind of lie and deception and delusion and cover up of the truth. It doesn't mean what it really means when it comes from beneath, from the earth, from man, from the dust. Doesn't have anything to do with heaven and from above what it really means. It doesn't know what it means. It just has some carnal earthly understanding of it, which is never the understanding. Therefore, it's a lie that it has. If it's not the truth, it's already a lie, no matter what it is, no matter what it looks like. If it's not the truth, it's a lie already. Has to be, because there's only truth and the lie. There is nothing in between. The lukewarm thing is the lie. So it goes into the lie category. There is only two things, the truth and the lie. There is no middle ground to straddle both, so that it can say it's not either one, so that it can't be judged and escape the judgment, so that no one can point the finger, so that it can't be condemned. And in reality, that's all it is condemned condition and condemning itself while thinking it can't be condemned, judged at all, because it's right in the middle. It's not yes, it's not no, it's neither one. It's both somehow at the same time. It's yes and no at the same time, so that it can escape what's really being spoken of, so that it can escape the truth and what's really being spoken of, thinking that someone can escape when they can't escape. They're being judged according to their works anyways, no matter how much they think they're hiding the truth and from the Creator their sins. No one can actually escape. They're being judged by their thoughts and secret intentions and works by the Almighty every day, regardless of the excuses. Everyone's being judged by their works. Just like we read, just like it said so plainly in His Word, that even the church world does scream out and shout. And yet I've only seen utter resistance and hatred for true words given on what these things mean in real life, away from the church building and false prophets preaching. I've only seen enmity and hatred to the truth and lack of any belief in it. But in church, it's pretty easy in the church world to make it look like it believes something, because what it's talking about is the lie, the letter of His Word. It's actually their own doctrines and commands and commandments of men, and not the Father, not from above, not the authority from above, none of it. Messiah taught that the religion only ever teaches and commands the commandments of men and traditions and doctrines of men. They can read that plainly too. Did they believe it? They didn't believe it 2,000 years ago. They won't believe it today. Nothing ever changes and nothing is new under the sun. That's what it means. Nothing is new under the sun. The heart, there's nothing new. The works, thoughts, and intentions of the heart, there is nothing new. What was done before will be done again. And whatever corruption there was is already so and will be done again. And it won't go away and it won't change. Not this world, it won't. It takes a lot of faith to believe in good things to come, and that the world will always be corrupt and just get worse and worse, which it is. That there is no hope for this world. That is the truth, that there is no hope for this world and its condition and what it is. It needs to repent, but there's no hope because it won't repent in this world, in this life. And yet there is a hope for all people, but it's not this world, not right now. It won't change. It will only get worse. It will only continue to destroy others and its own self until it's finally complete. Well, that seems pretty negative, doesn't it? Seems pretty heavy. Who can handle the truth? Who can bear it and pick up the stake and bear it? That's what Messiah did. He picked up the stake of the Father's truth and bared it, because it takes power and strength to bear the truth. And He also bared the sins of the people, as we also need to bear the sins and not dump them off once someone does sin, which will be a pressure to dump it off right away and return the sin for sin that someone did to us. Now it needs to be bared in truth and not done back. That's love, a love that the whole world does not recognize at all. You won't get any rewards. You won't get praise for actually doing the works of love in this world. Who can hear that? Who can bear that? It will not happen if someone's doing good. It's so powerful and true that if someone is getting praised by this world, they're a lying sinner and they're deceivers. They're not doing any actual good, because they wouldn't get praise from this world if they did. Don't they read that plainly too? That they also don't believe and never believed at any time? Don't they believe what they read plainly in His Word that they say they believe in? If I'm being commended by men and praised by men, I'm no longer a bondservant of Messiah. Haven't they read those words? Don't they believe them? They say they do. What do they think that means in real life, in the real world? Did Messiah get praise, or did he get condemned to death with the wicked? Or did he get murdered by the wicked and condemned as a sinner and a blasphemer and a liar and a murderer? Which one happened? He didn't get praise from men, from men's hearts. And that has to be carefully seen and discerned between that and someone's image getting worship, because someone's image getting worshiped is not the true praise. It's sin. It's just image worship. It's idolatry. It's adultery. It's spiritual fornication. A believer can't be getting praise from this world. There is no corrupt intention to speak his truth for believers, because his truth is perfect and not corrupt. It's not corruptible. It can't be corrupted. That means no corruption is going to come because of someone doing truth. His word's not corruptible. All day long they teach his word is corrupt, and if they teach the earthly thing, what do they really believe and think and mean of the spiritual things, greater things, so much greater? They say his word is literally corrupt. What are they really teaching and believing in their heart about what it is? That it's utterly corrupt. That's what. If they think that's corrupt on that level, what do they really think of it in their heart? That it's corrupt, just as it is, put out, so it's back, comes back. That's what the heart really believes. How could believers believe his word is corrupt? How could that be a true believer? It's to say the Father is corrupt. What does his word mean? Some letter? It's a working of the heart. It's real things. It's to say the Father is corrupt. Who and what he is corrupt, is to say his word is corrupt. His word's not corrupt, and it can't be broken, just as Messiah said. The scriptures can't be broken in reality, and yet all day long they break the scriptures. But it can't be broken in reality. It's a delusion that's being witnessed. It's not actually happening that it's broken and being broken. The Father's not broken like man is broken. It's man's seed and corrupt word that's broken. And he spreads that corruption and that word and that bad seed. He spreads that his disease through spiritual fornication, receiving a great judgment, the wine and wrath of fornication, deceiving all the kings of the earth and all nations, the harlot, deceiving all the beasts, the harlot. The religion that claims to believe in the Creator has deceived all the nations, all of them. That's their job, and they've spread and grown the cancer to lie and teach a false gospel of death and condemnation forever, burning in fire forever. The most wicked thing to actually be done for someone is to torture them forever. How could there be anything more wicked than that? Because it goes on forever. And the work is wicked itself, but that wicked work goes on forever. This is the gospel of condemnation and death and misery and wickedness that they spread. They never gave the true gospel, because if they did, they would be murdered, just like every believer's getting murdered and taking it. Just like Messiah, the first one of the firstborn of the dead, got murdered. It takes a lot of faith to do the Father's will and speak his truth regardless of what's going to happen because of doing it. Takes faith every day that he'll protect us until that perfect time at the end. That in the meantime, he's going to protect us from the enemy and keep us alive spiritually and keep us alive. Man is full of cowardly fear to even remotely do anything good or speak truth, because this world's already against it. It will slander and violently attack and suppress all truth if it hears it. It will do anything and everything in its power, thinks it has power of itself, to try to destroy the truth and shut it up. It has to get near the truth in order to have a chance of destroying it. That's the enemy's work. That's the plotting. That's the deception. It needs to try to become one with what cannot be one, so that in hopes of destroying the person and the truth, in hopes of destroying Messiah. And it even looks like they destroyed him. How hard is that to bear? Because people will actually believe that a believer's been destroyed utterly, and they will sing praises that the two witnesses died. They will give each other carnal, wicked gifts and bribes and worship the dead and be glad that they're dead, so they think. But then the Father says, wake up, come up to heaven, and everyone went into stunning fear because what they thought was dead just came to life, because they cannot actually kill the Creator's people because of the Creator himself, because of the trust that believers have and must have in him, and not of our own work in trusting. There's always a way for good, but it's going to look like the evil to people in the world. It's going to look like pride to say that his people can't actually be destroyed. That's exactly what his people are supposed to believe, because they trust his word and promise that they won't be destroyed or forsaken. Not trusting in self on that, not speaking out of pride and self's resources when saying that self can't be destroyed. That can easily be done. The corrupt thing can easily be done, and that would be pride. That would be sin. That's the world speaking of itself in pride, that no one can touch it, no one can destroy it. Even the Creator himself can't do anything, can't do good, won't do good or evil to someone. Really? What have they read all these years, thousands of years in his word, that he does to people, to sinners? What do they think he does? He won't do good or evil? He won't bring on evil to someone so that they reap what they sow? They have to receive evil if they sowed evil. That's not the Father doing evil, but he brings it on. That's how it's said that he does evil, not that he actually does evil. There's discernment required for that word. Every word requires discernment, or else it's going to go from very good to very bad and blasphemy and wicked instantly if it's even a little bit off the teaching. It's going to teach how to sin if it's off even a little bit. It's going to teach pride is good and okay if it's off even a little bit. The truth is perfect. Anything less than perfect is wicked, because wickedness is the complete lack of being perfect. It's the mixing. Truth is perfect. Anything less is sin. And all doctrines and commands of men is sin, because it comes from self and not from the Creator. So then denial of self is the only answer to receive his things and do his works. It's denying self, self's ability, self's work, self's thoughts, self's ways, self's so-called understanding and wisdom. Self's understanding of his word needs to be denied, because it cannot be understood from self. It's not possible. No matter how much someone tries, they won't be able to see it, because he's the Creator and sovereign over all things, and he's in charge of the spirit of every man, and his word is spirit and truth and power. Man doesn't bring down stuff from heaven, because things from heaven, because he says so. It can only come from the Creator through doing his will, his way, denial of self, submission to the Creator. That's the only way it's ever been given, is actual belief and submission and denial of self. Those things have to be done for real to receive from him. Otherwise, it's not coming. And what someone has is their own thing, which is the lie already, and sin, which is the doctrine and commandments of men. It's a sin to be of self. That's why Messiah said it's the doctrines and commandments of men, because it's a sin to be coming from self, anything. The true doctrine comes from above, Anybody that's of the Father will hear the Father's words. They will hear the one that speaks them, and they won't hear a stranger. They won't hear a harlot, because they're not of the Father. So also his people don't hear the false messenger. And this hearing is different. It's not out of not understanding. It's they don't hear because they discern that they're false and they're not of the Father. Therefore, his people don't hear the world's word, false messenger's word, because they understand that it's false and have nothing to do with the darkness and can't have anything to do with it. Therefore, not hearing it, not accepting it, not taking it, not believing it, not doing it. That's why we read, we would rather obey the Creator and not men. Man would like and love believers to obey man, to obey someone's command and man's laws. We would rather obey the Creator and not men. That's why we read that. What does someone see out of that if they were to hear it in this world? Utter rebellion of the world when the kingdom is not of this world. Oh, it's rebellion, all right, against the world and its sin and all its things, but it's not what the carnal man thinks this rebellion is. This is a good rebellion. It's not going on the street rioting and rebelling the kingdoms of this world. It has nothing to do with that word. And yet it is the rebellion of this world. It's the rebellion of sin and walking away from it. It's the rebellion of going downstream along with everyone else, going upstream instead. It's rebellion to downstream. It's rebellion to walking away from the Creator further every day. Rebellion to that, to the wicked way, and agreement to the true way, which is drawing nearer to Him. It's in rebellion to anything that's against Him in the heart. It's not believing the lie, the sorcery, the delusion, the command in the heart that someone tries to get someone to do secretly in the dark because they can't do their works in the open. They would be exposed if they did their works in the open, and yet they are getting exposed anyways while they think they're hiding. Because nothing can actually be hidden. No matter how hard someone tries, it can be seen by those that see, and it's always seen by the Creator. Their works aren't actually hidden. Thinking so is the rebellion and delusion. Thinking that they can be hidden is the delusion. It's not real. No delusion is real. It's not reality. It's not truth. A delusion. Just like the shadow isn't truth and reality, but it points to it. It looks like it for an image, and the image is not the truth itself. The shadow is not the truth. We're supposed to sacrifice ourselves. That's the true faith. True faith is sacrifice of self. That sacrifice that was made available to Abraham just at the right time, as an example of what faith is that ram is self. Self is sacrifice. That's what's provided. Messiah, the lamb, is provided. The sacrifice is provided. To do good to others requires sacrifice of self, requires getting murdered by others. It requires denial of self. It requires these real things and real works to let them be done, to let them slaughter you. Just as Messiah let them slaughter him. They didn't make him do something. He did it willingly on his own. That's why he said that. No one was forcing. He didn't do it out of worshiping image and force and doing it because he was forced and had no choice. He did it willingly from the heart. He laid his life down willingly. They didn't take it from him. He laid it down. It only looked like they take it from him because they can't see the very words that are being spoken right now for what that means. There is no value to the carnal kingdoms, whatever is truth. It doesn't do any good for the carnal kingdoms, the truth. None. It's as enmity as can be. It's as 180 as it can be. It has nothing to do with the kingdoms of this world, the truth. It doesn't work like the kingdoms of this world work at all. It's completely and totally contrary and 180 as far as the east is from the west from it. Father is not of the world. Messiah is not of the world. Believers are being made to not be of the world because the Father's not and Messiah is not of this world. In the world, but not of it. What's the definition of being in the world and not of it? Is it being in the world now means we're of it? No, it doesn't automatically mean that. In the world and not of it specifically means to be in the world, but not of it. Yes, there is a way to be in the world and not of it. Being in the world is not proof that someone's not of it. That's just how the enemy thinks and doesn't know and understand anything. Messiah was in the world, not of it. He was not truly of it, even though he was literally in it. So a believer is literally in the world and around everything that's evil, but not of it. There's a way for that. The enemy does not believe there's a way to be in the world and not of it. The proof that you're of it is by being in it, literally. That's what the enemy will accuse. It can be counted on. It's as sure as the sun coming up in the morning, and it will, because the Father is faithful and never fails to those that trust and believe in him. Those that don't know him won't see his faithfulness. They won't see why the sun comes up in the morning. They won't see it in their heart, the real reason and what that means and the value of it. They won't see it. No one can please him apart from faith. Without faith, no one can please him. There goes everything. Our work is to believe in Messiah, the Word, and we need to become that same Word, just as he was made into the Father's Word and was his Word. Belief in Messiah is belief in his Word, because Messiah lived every word for what it means and lived it. Messiah's food was to do the will of the Father. What's a believer's work? To believe in Messiah, to believe the true belief in the heart. And that belief will lead to doing the Father's works and learning them and doing them. Just as Messiah did, so also his people. Belief means something in his truth. Faith is not seeing how that provision will come, how that sacrifice will come for Abraham. Faith is not seeing it for real. It doesn't look like it. He's ready to do something that the Father never meant to do and commanded from his heart to do. That's what someone will do if they don't have true faith under that pressure and test. When a test comes in someone's life, they will have to do evil if they don't have faith, because there won't be any provision made. He doesn't make that without faith. You have to do evil under a pressure and a test of life. Have to put a knife in someone's gut out of fear that self will be destroyed. So destroying others is what someone has to do to stay alive more themselves. It's as selfish as it gets. It doesn't get more wildly selfish than this, and evil and fear, cowardly fearful. No fear, no fear. They're right when they say no fear. They don't have the true fear of Elohim, but they're full of the cowardly fear. The more true fear someone has, the less cowardly fear they have. The more someone fears the Creator with the set apart fear, the less cowardly fear they have, the stronger they are. The stronger in spirit they are. And a pressure and a test comes to grow the faith, of which there is no other way to grow it except through that experience and difficulty and pressure. and a bigger one will come to grow the faith even more when it can handle it. It's the only way it's going to get bigger yet again until it's perfected. When testing comes to an unbeliever, it only does more sin, for the bigger a test it is, the bigger sin it does. The leaven, the hypocrisy in the oven cooking, is of the harlot, and it's growing bigger when it's put under heat, which is the testing in the oven. That's why Messiah said this parable about the heat is the testing of in the oven. It grows the bread, the corruption, even bigger. The hotter it gets, it grows the leaven. Someone is put under a test to see what they are and what they will do, and they will sin under pressure. The only thing that proves things is pressure and testing. When there's no pressure or testing in any given moment, it proves nothing. Zero. It means nothing and proves nothing. Something is only proven under a test, under pressure. Faith is only proven under pressure, where it makes it feel wildly uncomfortable, impossible, not looking so good. That's what it is. That's the pressure. That's to see whether someone has faith or not. That's what proves whether someone has faith or not. It's utter proof. Are believers going to fail along the way? That yes, they will. It's the only way they can learn and grow further. And yet this is for believers to believe, to know that truth, that that's the only way it can grow, is through pressure, testing. Father is always doing it out of the good. But someone that is evil, that doesn't believe in him, will only see it as evil. And those that believe in him they'll start seeing the good. That it's always been good. It's always been for the good and not what we think carnally from our carnal mind. That has to die more to think more of the Creator's thoughts and receive more of his thoughts and truth. No one will receive anything for not believing, and no one will be healed for not believing in him. So man tricks man to get people to trust in the man, and then false healers arrive, and then the devil mocks the false healers through the world, through the music, through songs and things, through comedy or whatever. It mocks the thing that's fake because it deserves to be mocked for what it is, which is sin and garbage, fake and fraudulent. Then the devil mocks himself in all stupidity, in all contradiction. The devil's kingdoms are divided against itself, and it has been from the beginning. That's the foolishness of man, foolishness and madness of sin and folly. Like we read, the carnal man is the foolishness and folly that he's condemning everyone else of being. He is that himself. It's why the world is the way it is, because of every individual sinner. If every individual truly believed, it would be the kingdom of heaven fully on earth and have nothing to do with this world. That's not so right now, and yet it needs to be becoming so for his people, though. It's too bad that it's not so for the world, so we know that it can't be for this world. It needs to be becoming this for his people, though, every day. The kingdom of heaven, his people that are not of this world. To get mixed up in the world's arguments is already to sin and fall. So it's already a trap. It's a trap. There is no answer in it. It's to stay out of it is the answer completely, and not even take the bait. Take the bait. Take debate. Debate. Don't take debate. Don't take the debate. Debate. It's a trap. It's the bait. It takes discernment to see the difference between two things. Because all the time something looks the same and sounds the same as something else, and it's not. It's completely different. Sounding and looking the same never proved it's the same, and never can do that. It could be the same, It also may not be the same, because the devil does a masquerade and creates an image that makes it look the same for an image on purpose. This is deception. This is the delusion. That's why it's so deceiving and deceitful. Man's heart is very deceitful, believing in all kinds of lies and deceptions, more than prone to it. But for anyone that trusts in the Father to give the truth and come out of delusion, they will. He'll get them out of it bit by bit. He'll give them the truth. Those that don't believe that he can give, they won't receive anything because they don't believe. He doesn't bless unbelief. He'll make sure that they get exactly what they believe, which is not believing at all. They won't believe, and they'll get the proof of unbelief more. The evolution will look true more and more as the days go by for an unbeliever. The lie will look more and more true as a punishment. He will be given over to his own beliefs and self and works and heart more and more. The restraint being taken off to give someone over to themselves more and more. It's really all self's things, not anyone else's. No one can blame someone else for their own sins. It doesn't matter if 10,000 people around us sin. If the one person sinned, that's because they sinned. They can't blame those 10,000 that really did sin. They can't blame. That's taught from the beginning, that Adam and Eve cannot blame each other or the devil for their sins. They did the sins. They wanted to. They have to take responsibility and accountability for it. It doesn't matter that someone is deceiving someone. Yes, that person will be judged for deceiving someone, but the deceived is accountable for being deceived and will be judged for being deceived. Both parties will be judged and are guilty. That's the truth taught from Genesis, from the beginning. Adam and Eve are judged, and the serpent is judged. All of them judged, because they all sinned, and no one can blame anyone else for it. This world is insane because of the constant blaming and shifting of blame to someone else. Causes enormous amounts of confusion. Incredible amounts of confusion because of this working constantly like this. I better actually notice this time that I got 2% battery left. It's not doing the split screen. I forget how to turn it on. Oops. So then that offering is the sacrifice. It's the sacrifice of self, or else someone else is going to have to be sacrificed for not sacrificing ourselves. It's one or the other, and it must be like that. Without faith, someone else is going to have to be sacrificed for someone's faithlessness, for not sacrificing self. That's the punishment. Someone will have to do some kind of evil to someone out of their heart, murder them, lie to them, deceive them, which is murder, if they don't have faith and sacrifice themselves. There is no other choice. That's what it's also teaching, that he showed me with Abraham's example, with Isaac there, ready to be killed. It's also pointing to what the Father did through Messiah and the sacrifice and everything he did to Messiah. It's also teaching that, pointing to that. the true thing that was done already and finished. Messiah sacrificed himself. He laid his life down for others. It has nothing to do with self. It's the complete destruction and denial of self for others. There's nothing left of self. It's complete denial of self. This world never does that. It's an abomination to do that. It's an abomination to believe someone in the world is doing that. They don't believe that anyone's doing that ever at any time, because they don't do it themselves and they don't see anyone else do it, doing the Father's works. They wouldn't believe it if they saw the real thing and the real works, just like they didn't believe Messiah when he showed up right in front of them. Never knew or thought what a believer is and what they look like and what they are. They never believed. They never knew, because the Father's word will stand as true in the end perfectly. That they never knew them. Someone that's not of the Father cannot hear their words. They cannot believe in them and their testimony, not to worship them in some kind of wicked way, but they can't believe in them in that they don't believe them. They don't believe that the works are of the Father. They don't believe what Messiah, a believer, is saying. They can't hear his words. He told them that you can't hear my words. Did Messiah believe in the Father? Is it wicked to call him a believer, a true believer? He's the first true believer there ever was. That is what he is also, a true believer, a true saint, the firstborn from the dead that did the Father's will. This belief cannot be in the heart because of all the lies in the way in someone's heart and all the false doctrines and lies that connected only to sin and evil and blasphemy. The God-man doctrine that Messiah is the creator and Elohim. There is no belief in the heart for who Messiah is, not through a lie. Not possible. It's like saying that yes and no is possible at the same time. It's like saying someone can walk left and right at the same time. One or the other is being done at any given moment, not both. It's not from heaven above, from the Father and from man. It's one or the other. Is the doctrine and teaching from the Creator from above, or is it from man? It's not both. It's one or the other. Lukewarm is both. It's mixed. It's neither hot or cold. It's neither yes or no. Sometimes yes could be hot or no could be hot. It doesn't matter. The hot and cold is the yes and no, the left and right, the up and down. It's the mixing of two that cannot be one. He would rather someone be cold than this lukewarm middle that he vomits out. It's the most disgusting thing to be lukewarm. It's the most foul. It's not what someone would think again for what sin is and what the Father hates. It's even worse to the Creator, the mixed thing, than being cold. It's worse. It's more sinful. It's more foul. It's more gross. And to see how these things are so can only come from Him. To see how it's so, why it's so, why it matters, why it's important, can only come from someone actually seeking Him in their own time in the secret place, in their house, in their car, whatever they're doing, is to actually seek Him themselves and not follow some corrupt carnal man that just wants to teach the commandments of men and destroy others for their own gain. What does the devil offer Messiah? Do they really believe what this means? They do speak these words sometimes, something about them, with the devil offering their and tempting Messiah. They're on turning stones into bread and the rest of the temptations. What the devil is offering means something pretty big. It's still true today. He offers carnal kingdoms. All the things in and of the world that man lusts for, he offers. What do you have to do to get more of those things? Bow down and worship the devil, which is to worship self, because the devil is all about self-worship, who and what the devil is. Therefore, this looks like a man worshiping himself. That is the devil in the man. Is the man itself worshiping itself. It's his own things and his own doctrine, his own ways. He blazes his own trail and wants to do it his way in rebellion. I did it my way. Yeah, you did. It's the truth. You said it. Hey, you said it. No, come on right there. I didn't say that. You sung it. You said it. I didn't say it. You said it. Well, I did say it, but you said it. I said it because you said it. The point of saying you said it is that you poured out your folly. It's actually true. You did it your way. You said it. That's the rebellion right there. There is no my way. You didn't do my way in reality. You died in a delusion. There's no your way. Or maybe he's still alive. I don't know for sure. See, when someone's trapped, it doesn't matter. If he's alive, he's a great deceiver. If he's dead, he's a great deceiver. Because if he's alive, most everyone believes he's dead. That's a deceiver. That's a wicked work to deceive millions of people. That's a deception if he's still alive. And if someone is being called that person as if he is under a new name, if that person is him today, he's a deceiver either way, whether it's him or some imposter that just wants people to believe it's him. Either way, that specific man is a deceiver. So if some man is Elvis, that's who I'm speaking about. It, I'm sure that got picked up on. If some man out there is actually him, and maybe he's a deceiver, a liar. He's living in a delusion every day, a hardcore example of one. It's about as hardcore as it gets to live a fraudulent lie every day, every single day. But if it's not, if that same man is not him, a bunch of people think that it is. And he definitely made it out to look like he wants that to be true, and a bunch of people think he is. So that person's a deceiver either way. And people give praise. They give praise to deceivers. Oh, it's hard to hear. It's hard to hear when someone says that's a man of God right there doing God's work. You know, he left his life. It's pretty hard to hear that that's all abomination. That's all lies. No, he didn't. That person's a deceiver either way. Whatever the truth is, he's a deceiver and is not doing Father's work either way. But people are saying he is. He's getting praise from men. It's dangerous to be getting praise from men. That must be a sinner. That must be an unbeliever. Believers are sinners, and yet they're saints. They're not sinners. Can any of his word not prick someone's heart and make them angry? Someone calling themselves a sinner, well, that's a discernment. How could a believer not be a saint? What are they then? Unbelief, sinners? They don't understand why we read sinners and saint, do they? How it's working, why Messiah teaches, why we read about this. Believers aren't sinners, and yet they are. Two different things being spoken of. Which one is someone speaking about when they say they're not a saint in this world? What are they really saying? Which one are they speaking of? Are they just giving themselves away? And yet it's got to be careful not to say we're saints out of pride and lie because it's because of being said out of pride, as if we're not sinners, as if we never sinned, never sin. Nope, it's always a fine line, the truth, to believe the truth, keep it, and not do the sin for the other thing and lie. It's always a narrow way. Why is it called a narrow way if it's not like this with all things? It's a fine line, the truth and the error. One step to the left or right, it's error. It's how narrow the way is. It's like walking a tightrope. Better get it perfect. But it's not on us to get it perfect of our own works. And yet we got to do it. It's on the Creator working in us. That's the belief that we need to have, which requires more denial of self to do His perfect work. The believer is not condemned, therefore Messiah says that there is no unrighteousness in the one that seeks to do the Father's will and does not seek their own glory. In that man there is no unrighteousness. How and why is he saying that? Does it mean that someone never sins or will sin? No. And yet those words are true. And to teach otherwise is a lie and of the enemy. It's because under his way, his people are covered, because they're under his grace. It's not the sin that's being seen and counted for. It's the Father's covering that he sees. And they say these similar words in the church world. What on earth is it to live it? Completely different from what someone thought it was first, just the license to sin. It's not that. It's because his covering is forgiveness. That doesn't mean that's the only word now. His word is pretty big. All of his word is truth, not just one part, not just one word, but all of it. Man must live by every word of Elohim, and not even just the bread alone, even though that's good, but it can't be alone because he must live all of it. The moment it's not all of it, it's of the enemy, it's of the devil. It's a mixed thing. There's no such thing as keeping his will and doing his work when it's not all of it. So that's the belief, is that all of it is the truth. You need to live all of it. You need the bread from heaven and to live by every word. Messiah is the bread from heaven. And we read, like he said, they ate the bread and died. How offensive is that? They ate that bread and they died. That wasn't the true bread. Father gave them the bread, but that bread itself was just the image of the true. But what it teaches is true, and therefore that word is true. And if someone doesn't see what it's really meaning, they will only see the letter, the lie, self-understanding that has no profit or value or benefit concerning life, the true life and his truth, and concerning the kingdom, it profits nothing. when that carnal thing is the only truth in someone, it profits nothing. It can do nothing for life. It can do nothing for the truth, for their own good spiritually. And even that's a fine line for how that's working. Because it's never about the object, but as soon as it's something to do with faith, that object is connected to it, and it becomes and can become something spiritual that the heart is doing. But when people talk about worldly things, that carnal worldly thing, what their heart is doing has no profit, because they're speaking of flesh, talking about flesh, talking about the image, the outwardly at best. Still building temples in 2023, literal temples, speaking of the outward appearance, the shadow. Messiah is the reality that came to fulfill what the shadow pointed to. He lived the word. The true light came. There was no light before in the world like this. There is no place in all the earth that teaches the actual truth except whoever his people are, the few. No one else, no other kingdom in the world teaches what the Father gives them. Nowhere. Can't be found. It's all the same. It leads back to the same sin and corruption that man is. His truth only comes from him, and it's only given to his people. Who else? Those that don't believe. Kingdoms of this world when he's not of this world? No. The world doesn't teach the truth. It never does that out of its heart. It never teaches the truth out of the intention of the heart. It doesn't even know what these words mean when they hear the words. Think they teach truth because they, in their mind, think they said something true and that's what truth means. No, it doesn't. Truth is the intention to speak truth and actually speak it out of understanding and seeing something that's true with intent to speak the truth. Devil has no intention to do anything good or true. Therefore, no matter what the devil says, it's already a lie, because there's no intention to speak the truth, let alone having it and understanding it. There is no truth in him, none. No truth in the enemy. How could there be truth in his children, being made in his image more, the image of the beast? How could there be truth in them if there's not truth in the master? Don't they know it works like this for evil also? Messiah's words. No servant is greater than the master. That applies for evil also. Messiah is the master. Whatever he did, whatever was done to him will be done to his people. No servant's greater than the master. If the master doesn't have something, neither does the servant. If the master has something, then the servant has, but not more or greater than the master. So if the devil is someone's master and there's no truth in him, there's certainly no truth in his servants. None. I just looked at the timestamp on for the streaming here, 144. I didn't look at it until that second. And the time is 4:44. I just looked at my time right now. 6% battery life, 4:44, 1:44. The 144,000 are those that do the will of the Creator and follow Messiah wherever he goes. It looks something like to the carnal mind to see someone following Messiah, being lost in the desert, roaming around every which way, looking like they're going nowhere. That's all it can look like to the one that's lost and going nowhere. They need to learn what it means to go somewhere with purpose. Doesn't mean what they think it means. Doesn't mean becoming a millionaire, becoming rich and famous. They call it vines. Someone has their main thing and then they build vines. Those other things are like vines to the main thing that they love and like to do. Millionaires and billionaires, they make vines, right? They're growing their kingdoms bigger. They're prospering. The wicked are always prospering, we read. What kind of prospering in that word? Wicked prospering, carnally getting bigger, more riches, more money, more things of this world, prospering. Let them prosper. They have no life in them. They're the shadow of death and emptiness and all hollowness. That's their reward for chasing those things, and they deserve it. How dare anyone say that the Creator is a wicked, unrighteous judge, including self? Better not be saying that. Easy to do. It's happened. That's the war and struggle, to agree with its truth and believe it and see it and acknowledge it. It's a wrestling, not the image of wrestling, but what it really means. Something like wrestling with an angel. And Jacob thinks he sees Elohim because he wrestles literally. His mind's corrupt utterly. But what that word means is not corrupt, and it's very valuable. The true wrestling that is, that Jacob, all his people, all Israel, Jacob, wrestles with the Almighty. The carnal man thinks by doing evil, he sees the Creator, God. They must be talking about the devil in reality, the God of this world that people speak of so often as God. You don't know him, Messiah said, but your father is the devil, and his works you will do. Did anyone believe him? No, they couldn't believe him. They filled up with more wrath after he told them the truth. Why didn't they believe him? Because he told them the truth. That's why they didn't believe him. Because he told them the truth. Because it was truth coming out of his heart from the spirit of truth, they couldn't believe him. Because it came from truth. If he lied, then they would see. They would take him as his own. One brother for another. He would be some kind of brother in the devil's kingdoms. If he lied, they would accept that lie. They would be happy he lied to them. They want to see people lie and sin and do the sin that they do themselves daily. They want others to be in the same destruction and evil, or whatever thing it is. They want others to have the same problems. Happy to see it when it when someone has it. Someone can be like-minded in this evil way because they have the same problems. And this is called friendship in this world. True friendship has nothing to do with that. The true friendship that Messiah is to his people, the world doesn't know. And there's no price to be put on it. It's because it's not money. It's nothing to do with money and literal rubies. Way too valuable to be compared to it even. Those that believe are being given to believe more and things to come. What the world cannot believe in its heart for anything to come. The good news for the things to come is part of the truth. Only those that seek to do the Father's will see proof and belief of the things to come also that the world does not actually believe. Speak the good news even though you know most won't believe. That's what the Father's doing. That's what he's commanding his people to do it anyways, which is what love is. That pressure, that thing that's against that is how it shows its love because it's totally insane to do and selfless. That's what he wants his people to do. The complete, total, insane thing that's insane to this world because there is no carnal benefit or profit, and we know the world won't even get better because one sinner that repents is incredibly valuable. That's how important it is. That's how valuable it is to the Creator. One sinner that repents. It's worth it just for one. Let the world do what it does. It's saving millions every day. Like a product, merchandise. It's not actually happening. It's not saving anyone apart from his way and will. You can't lie to others and then claim it's saving people. It does not save the one that it lies to. It doesn't sacrifice itself speaking the truth. It sacrifices others and gives the lie to save its own wicked Adam beast soul, like a lion that needs to stay alive another day so it can devour someone more to stay alive again, so that it can devour to stay alive to devour again. It eats others up so that it can live and devour more to eat others up so that it can live to devour more and eat others up. It lives for itself like a beast like this with nowhere to go. It's just utter evil and insanity and selfishness beyond measure. What this is, pride, self, self. That's what someone becomes more and more perfectly every day, or the truth. very good or very bad, no in between. In the end, someone was one of those two things and nothing in the middle. Survival this world talks about has nothing to do with the true survival. The living that this world talks about has nothing to do with the true life and the living. The true living is not seen. It doesn't exist to the world. It's not seen. How can someone know what life is if they never seen it, never had it? And yet there's false prophets that go out there every day to make themselves look like they know, and they're lying and they know they're lying. Every day they trap themselves more into their lies and can't come out of it. That's quite a punishment. Every day guilty as a liar. Every day it goes to bed and sleep. It's guilty, tossing and turning in guilt within itself. What's it need to do? Go out and lie even more, thinking that's going to fix the problem. More impossible to repent tomorrow than it ever was before. That's quite the punishment. It's a pretty severe judgment, just in itself, let alone anything else that happens in someone's life. There's no limit to how blind man gets. No limit. No limits. That's what it always meant. No limits to how blind a man can get. And sell some carnal thing, no limits. Jump off a mountain or something. Try to fly down it without hitting a rock and dying. That's like no limits or something. Trying to teach the carnality as the truth. That's not what that means. What good is that going to do for someone? How can that give life? How can that give understanding and truth? There's no way to do the Father's works apart from his way and believe in him. Otherwise, they wouldn't be called a special royal priesthood, his people. There wouldn't be any special royal priesthood in this world if the truth wasn't so. They got their own priesthood going. They got their own system going. And popery and whatever, anything like it in the heart. Hiding in a dark room behind a veil, lusting to hear someone's sins because that's what it does every day itself in the dark room. Thinking it's hiding there. It's revealing who and what it is before all. Creator sees that man hiding in the dark perfectly. Every thought, every intention, every perverted thing. That's actually man thinking of his own power and pride can forgive someone else's sins. Even calling himself Father. Pretty severely corrupt and blind. end was chaos. The end is chaos. The beginning is chaos. The end is chaos. It was declared from the end, from the beginning, the end. Why should someone expect any different? The world's going to save itself or something? It's not. No matter what it looks like, no matter if the whole world believes it's going to have peace and, you know, just go on in some kind of peace and everything's going to be fixed up and okay. Doesn't matter that that's what people want to believe. It's not happening. It's not coming. Build an ark and prepare for the flood. It's not coming, what they say. No matter how much they make it look like it through sorcery for a time, it's not coming. Build the ark and prepare for the flood every day spiritually. That's what his people need to do. This world's just getting flooded only. It's an abomination to Jehovah to try to save what's determined to be flooded. There is no saving sin. Sin needs to be destroyed. There's only repentance and acknowledgement of sin and doing his will. There is no saving sin, which is trying to save the world. The world needs to repent in truth. That would be the truth. It's not going to, but it needs to. The world, it can't be saved. It's not going to be saved. Many are going to perish. Many are going to die in their sins. No matter what anyone says, because that's the truth. No one will stop that truth from being true. Trying to stop it is rebellion, is man sinning in pride, trying to resist the truth. It's a lot of evil going on in this world. It's as if people want destruction to come on them. They keep doing works that prove that they want it. If they didn't want destruction to come, why do they keep fulfilling their own prophecy by doing the evil that brings it on? Maybe man wants destruction to come, doesn't he? Because he is destruction and lives for destruction, lives for survival and destruction and chaos, thrives in it like a beast. Who's going to be the Lion King in the chaos and the destruction? It's opportunity for someone to control people and be the king. In a literal delusion, straining at worthless gnats about some, I don't know, some knowledge on how to survive out in the forest or something, and someone argues and they kill each other over some most worthless thing possible that has no practical effect or difference between themselves even. Certainly no value. What they pump out in Hollywood is who and what man is. That's why they pump out what they pump out. It's who and what man is. Every single time something happens of that nature, like literal chaos, someone's got to be the leader, and then they end up killing themselves to hold on to that position. It lives in fear every day. I wonder how it started. Well, that's how it starts. That's how it's always starting and working, and that's how it ends. Someone needs to be the leader of that thing and control people. They don't care about anyone. It's all a numbers game to the person at the top of the pyramid scheme. It thinks it's God, the creator. It thinks it's Elohim, the creator of the heavens and earth. The Father gave them some kind of devil wicked power to their hand to do these things, and they think it's from themselves. They think they are the creator of the heavens and earth because they plan and plant roads on the dirt and build kingdoms and buildings and construct them. They've been handed over to the delusion so strong to believe that they are the creator on another level, deeper than the average person, in deeper sin. An even more dumb fool is what someone becomes. The deeper the sin they get in, the more they think they're wise and prideful, the more foolish they really are. They have to hide from people and hide that truth that they're great fools by always having some kind of image protect them, always hiding behind the scenes and making themselves look out to be so big, powerful, wise, and strong. Someone has to do that and show that to this world because of how weak they are and how wicked they are with zero strength. It's a cover. To cover, it has no strength. It needs to show people it's strong and get them to believe that image, to hide the truth, that it's just the man behind the scenes on a stage, the Wizard of Oz, just a weak man in destruction. Needs to create the fear of God in people so that no one can see it, that it's God in its own mind. Needs to scare people with this wicked, cowardly fear. It wants people to fear it because it thinks it's the creator who alone needs to be feared. It's trying to take place that fear with the cowardly fear. It's no true fear at all. It's Hitler's fear that it wants on others to fear them. Always wants them to, they want everyone to fear them and fear that they're going to do some kind of evil to people. People give them this power by feeding on their sins and by fearing. Would be cut off and taken away if no one feared them. They would be as worthless as a maggot. Well, and a man is worthless as a maggot in reality, but there is an understanding here concerning the world and how it works and power and things. They would be less than nothing if no one feared them with this cowardly fear that they want everyone to fear them with. It's what gives them the power, is people fearing them as if they're the creator. We're not to fear any man or fear any evil. That's the perfect truth for believers to do. Fear no man, fear no evil. It's what they want. They want worship. Desperately wicked want worship. On another level, wanting worship. At the highest level, wanting worship. They're not to be feared. What can man do to me? That's what we read. What can they do? Kill me? Well, that's where our faith has to be built up to that point, to where even killing a believer is not going to do anything to take away their life. Knowing also that the Father will and is able to raise them from the dead anyways, like he did Messiah. What can man do to me? Fear him who's able to destroy body and soul in Gehenna. Him do fear, Messiah taught. Fear the Creator, the one who's able to save and destroy. Cowards run this world. Weak, beggarly cowards. The more someone needs others to fear them with this evil fear, the more fear that person is in themselves. They live it every day. If they weren't in astonishingly cowardly fear every day, they wouldn't do that or need that fear by others to have towards them. That's the truth. They wouldn't do that, and they wouldn't need it. If someone has a cowardly fear for someone, that's a protection in someone's mind. They need to be feared because of how worried they are every day for someone coming out and getting them, because the Father brings their fears upon them like they can read. He lets them be gripped by evil and fear every day. The more afraid someone is, the more they need others to fear them to try to protect themselves. Because if they can get someone to fear them, then in their mind, someone won't do anything to them because they fear them. They're the most fearful people in all of the earth, the people at the top. They're the biggest cowards, and it's the biggest lie that they try to hide every single day, is that they are in its astonishing fear every day. They cannot believe the delusion they're in and how strong Jehovah's judgment is on them. They can't believe it. They literally can't believe it. They're stunned themselves that they're in it and can't come out of it. They're stunned every day that they're in rebellion. They can't believe that they're in rebellion, being owned by the Creator's judgment. They can never tell the truth. They have to sell whatever covers the truth, the lie, constantly. Make themselves out to be some kind of gods with great power that can do incredible, enormous, amazing things. It's disgusting. I think that might be it. Shadow there. The shadow's not real. Let's see what might open here. I got my finger on Romans. Happens to be 10:20. But Isaiah is very bold and says, I was found by those who did not seek me, was made manifest to those who did not ask for me. But to Israel, he says, all day long I have stretched out my hands to a disobedient and contrary people. I say then, has Elohim cast away his people? Certainly not, for I also am an Israelite of the seed of Abraham, of the tribe of Benjamin. Elohim has not cast away his people whom he foreknew. Or do you not know what the scripture says of Elijah, how he pleads with Elohim against Israel, saying, Jehovah, they have killed your prophets and torn down your altars, and I alone am left, and they seek my life. But what does the divine response say to him? I have reserved for myself 7,000 men who have not bowed the knee to Baal. Even so then, at this present time, there is a remnant according to the election of grace. And if by grace, then it is no longer of works. Otherwise, grace is no longer grace. But if it is of works, it is no longer grace. Otherwise, work is no longer work. It goes both ways. If it's of works, grace is no longer grace. Or if it's by grace, then it is no longer of works. But if it is of works, it is no longer grace. Otherwise, work is no longer work. What then? Israel has not obtained what it seeks, but the elect have obtained it, and the rest were blinded. Just as it is written, Elohim has given them a spirit of stupor, eyes that they should not see, and ears that they should not hear, to this very day. And David says, let their table become a snare and a trap, a stumbling block and a recompense to them. Let their eyes be darkened so that they do not see, and bow down their back always. Then we read on. If their fall is riches for the world and their failure riches for the Gentiles, how much more their fullness? Who can see this plan? For I speak to you Gentiles, inasmuch as I am an apostle to the Gentiles, I magnify my ministry, if by any means I may provoke to jealousy those who are my flesh and save some of them. He's not speaking out of the carnal man saving people, speaking it out of the truth. He knows that he doesn't actually do the saving of himself, that it's done through the man, the Father's works, that someone can scatter seed and water, but the Father's the one that adds the increase. He does the saving through his people. He works through them. Can't be confused from where it's coming. For if they're being cast away is the reconciling of the world, what will their acceptance be but life from the dead? If the first fruit is holy, the lump is also holy, and if the root is holy, so are the branches. And if some of the branches were broken off, and you being a wild olive tree were grafted in among them, and with them became a partaker of the root and the fatness of the olive tree, do not boast against the branches. But if you do boast, remember that you do not support the root, but the root supports you. Branches were broken off that I might be grafted in. Well said, because of unbelief they were broken off, and you stand by faith. Do not be haughty, but fear. For if Elohim did not spare the natural branches, he may not spare you either. Therefore consider the goodness and severity of Elohim. On those who fell, severity, but toward you goodness, if you continue in his goodness. Otherwise you also will be cut off. And they also, if they do not continue in unbelief, will be grafted in. For Elohim is able to graft them in again. He is able to do this. Well, that's not what I see, that the world believes that he's able to do this. Suppose he's only able to do it at certain times, the times that man declares. And then man declares that time is up. It's over. Now the Father's not able to do this anymore. Where is that word, by the way, that he's never able to do this no matter what, ever again? Where is that? Do you have any scripture to support that lie? So then, even though Israel is blinded, we're not supposed to boast against the natural olive tree and those branches, but fear, have the true fear, not, not to get prideful, which is what it would be to do that. No one got grafted in ever in Messiah. apart from that word right there. So then can't be haughty and prideful and boast against the branches that are blinded. Because of their blinding, a few have been grafted in through faith. And he's able to graft in again. What fullness is he speaking of? Something that seemed bad is causing a great good. How much the fullness of it? How complete is that going to be? Perfectly complete. Father has a plan that no one knows of except his people, that no one believes in their heart except his people. All of the evil is being worked out for a good. It's all going to be worked out for a good, and it is for those that believe it's already happening, and for those that don't, they don't believe that, and it's not happening. They're not seeing that. I think that's going to be it for now. Elohim is the savior of all people, especially of believers. And the dogs are going to bark loud at that. I don't like that so much, right, doggy? Yeah, keep barking. Why does the dog need to bark? Because it's got strength or because it's cowardly fear? If it had strength, it would never need to bark, and therefore wouldn't, because it doesn't need to also. The rooster puffs up because it's afraid, not because it's strong. Because it's prideful, and pride is cowardly fear. All right, please take care, seek truth from above.